It's a matter of the New Testament has been kind of read in a sense through these Pharisaical eyes as doing away with Shabbat, and even from Christian eyes to some extent, not even understanding the subtleties of Phariseeism and rabbinical Judaism. And there's a lot more nuance here is what you're saying. And so this is really important, guys. And I think what's important about what David is sharing here isn't just the specific information he's sharing, but it's an approach of how to read texts. I was at this event a few weeks ago. It was a sort of interfaith event in Dallas where Jews and Christians got together and we were reading the Haggadah. And I sat with this woman and we were reading the Haggadah together. And everything we read, she said, "Wow, that's so beautiful." And I said, "Okay, it's beautiful, but why do they say what they say? What's the question that they're answering?" And this is a Jewish way of thinking that people from other cultures don't always have. And it's so important for understanding the New Testament, the Tanakh, ancient Jewish sources. It's key that there's, and I think that phrase you used, omnisignificance, is really important, because this is the question when they're making a statement. It's not just some beautiful fuzzy statement. It's a response. There's a whole dialogue that goes behind that statement. There's an entire conversation going on, and they're giving you the answer, and you just missed the conversation.
Can I give you one last example?
Please, yes.
Okay. So we were studying just yesterday the book of Joshua, and the verse says in Joshua 5:2, "At that time the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites a second time." A second time.
Yeah.
So we were reading this passage, and one of our Christian readers, Larry, he says, "A second time of circumcision? Does that mean you're cutting what? That doesn't make any sense." And I was like, "No, Larry, it's ambiguous here. It's not that the circumcision is the second time. It's the second time that the Israelite people got circumcised. So it's not each person's second circumcision."
Right.
But I said, this question, what you just kind of got at, like, what does that mean? A second circumcision? That's very rabbinic question. There's going to be an answer. So we immediately went to the Pirkei de Rabbi Elazar, and we saw, and it says, why did they need a second one? Because the first one they did wasn't good enough, so they had to cut off the second time. There was still foreskin left in the circumcision.
Wow.
So
okay. So what it really means is this was the second mass circumcision. There had been an earlier one talked about in the Torah, so this is a great example of an apparent contradiction that isn't a contradiction at all. In other words, you can say in Leviticus it says you're circumcised once, but in Joshua, it says you get circumcised a second time, right? That's beautiful. That's typical. But it's a great question. But even though it's not a real contradiction, it's a great observation. Wow.
But this relates to what you were saying about the Haggadah.
Yeah.
Is that if you were to just read the Siktah Rav Kahana, rabbinic work,
right,
in a vacuum, you'd say, "Oh, okay, they had some problem. They did a second circumcision. Let's move on." No, it all stemmed from the biblical problem. There was a problem in the text.
Yeah. It also reflects something we didn't get to, which is the Zitzimleben, the life context, which is that if you were a convert even today to Orthodox Judaism, but back then for sure, and you were circumcised, then there was sort of a recircumcision. There's a ceremony of drawing blood, right? So there's a context here which they're reading, and they're saying, there is such a thing as getting recircumcised.
Right, yeah.
And then also if somebody's circumcised, it's another context of life. If someone's circumcised and it's a botched circumcision where they didn't adequately do it, they got to go clean up, right? And get more cut off, right? So we our last episode we talked about toilets. Now we're talking about this. All right. So the point is that it's not coming in a vacuum. It's like, okay, this is something that these rabbis are dealing with, and they've experienced this where there is such a thing like that exists in real life. So very interesting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.